Welcome back to the LED Project podcast. My name is Kyle Krieger, and I'm so pumped to have my friend who's in Singapore, Gary Gray Jr. on the podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh man, I'm so happy to be doing this with you. This is my first time doing a podcast, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm like
Hopefully your expectations aren't too high.
it's been so crazy because we were talking about CJ Reynolds, and my business partner and I, he's in Houston. I live in Wisconsin. We met 8 years ago, or no, sorry, I lived 8 years in Houston, Texas, after growing up in Wisconsin, and we met teaching, and we had done probably like 30 podcasts before we started putting guests on, and I just like sent CJ a message that was like, "Hey, I follow your stuff. Would you want to be on my podcast?" And he sent me a message back like 45 minutes later, like, "Yeah, I'm totally down." And it's so crazy, like, and everybody I've talked to, we've talked about the Instagram teacher community, and it's so awesome, like how willing people are to help. So, I follow you, and like I want to know how you do like the little graphics like that have you as the caricature, and you put oh my god, those are amazing. But
Thank
no,
you.
it's the expectation, there isn't really a lot of expectation. It's been just so fun to just have teacher talks with people, and the whole goal with this is to inspire teachers, and to bring on people who add them value. So whatever you can do to help teachers out, and I really, you being that you are in Singapore, I think you have a really interesting perspective to bring to teachers. So we're really excited to have you, man. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. This should be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, and it's like I said, it's we have a good time. It's not too serious. So first question we always ask everybody coming out is, could you tell us about who your favorite teacher was and why that person was your favorite teacher?
Um, Man, that's such a loaded question.
It is. Everybody says that.
I had, growing up, I had so many. I had a lot of that I liked a lot. The one for me the most um, were the teachers. To be honest, that look similar to myself. Um, I'll always remember my first like African teacher. So um, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was fifth grade. Um, she was from the community, and it's just easy to relate to, right? There were like not inside jokes, but she knew what was going on in the community in a sense where we could make connections that other teachers wouldn't be able to do. So um, high expectations. She like knew my parents, so like I couldn't really get away with anything. Um, it was one of those teachers where um, she just and at the same time she was looking out for me. So um, there was two of those teachers, and then there was another principal and his wife actually who I kind of grew up with, and they kind of turned into mentors for me. One went by the name of like Kenny, last name Fells, and his wife name was Karen Hudson. Just like always making sure I was on the right track. Um, Super friendly, and just were not scared to like check me if they noticed that I was doing something wrong or something that was out of characteristic of myself or not keeping myself to high standards. And growing up, you needed people like that, especially in the surroundings that we had in school. So those, I would say, those are my teachers that kind of stand out the most. There's other teachers that I could name. I could definitely go down the list, but those are the ones that kind of stand out the most.
All right, so there's another question I want to ask, and I'll come back to it. But since you're talking about, what is your background, and how did that kind of lead you to where you are now that you're teaching in Singapore?
Well, I'm from Nova Scotia. I grew up in an all black neighborhood called Preston. Preston is one of I think actually the largest black community in Canada. From Nova Scotia, I've gone to all my schooling in Nova Scotia. I went to this job fair after university. My mentor teacher kind of said, "Hey, are you interested in teaching abroad?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like this, what do you mean abroad? Like I haven't been outside of North America for my whole life. I went to this job fair in Toronto. From Toronto, I actually met my wife there at this
No, you didn't.
I did. It was like it's. I'll be honest. Like going to the job fair teaching international has been probably the best decision that I've ever made in my entire life. Um, Meeting my wife there, me, her, and another friend of mine from Vancouver, literally got like job offers from like a handful of schools, not like great schools, because we're like fresh out of school. But we had this school, and it was in Kuwait. We're like, where's Kuwait? Like what? Like we don't know anything about this place. We don't know anyone that's there. The package was okay. And we literally sat down around a table and we looked at each other and we were like, what do we have to lose? Like, we don't have jobs in Canada. We're all here, and let's just do this thing together. And we literally signed the contract together. And like the next few months went by, we talked to each other a little bit, and then the starting of September, we were in Kuwait together. It was like this crazy um, like this crazy thing of like events just happening, and all of a sudden like you wake up and you're in Kuwait and you're teaching in this foreign country. So that's basically how I got international, and then from Kuwait I moved to Singapore. So it's
I'm just intrigued. So like you were standing in line and you just started talking to the woman that now became your wife, or what?
well, so like she's gonna hear this too, so I have to be careful. Well, we were both kind of sitting. We and saw each other throughout the like I guess it's called like a recruiting fair. And like she's young, I'm young. There weren't a whole lot of young people there, so you know how you kind of gravitate towards people that are similar to you, same kind of vibe. And I did definitely talk to her first. Um, I did, and I'll say that I did. And we talked a little bit, and then like in the beginning, we were just kind of like, what do you like? How did you get here? What are your plans for education? We didn't plan like I think going in, I personally didn't plan on leaving Canada. I was mainly going for just like the interview experience because no matter what, you go to these fairs, you're gonna get interviews with like tons of schools to the point where like you're exhausted. And then you get a few offers, and then you're like kind of interested. Like it's a little bit intriguing. So from there, we decided to go, and then I think within the first 2 years, we spent 3 years in Kuwait. Um, we started dating, and then we got married actually last year. So it's been this international thing has been really crazy.
Man, that's awesome. And we'll definitely double back to that. But so we our next question, and like I feel bad because like it's been half and half of people that are into this. So, but this is a question we love is so as a teacher, if you had to pick one superhero that you were as a teacher or one superpower that you have, which one would it be?
I'm not a big superhero person, but I do like the more like I'd say I'm more like a Spider-Man person. Like he's like doesn't have any like crazy powers. He has like that spider sense, which like you always need as like a teacher, which is like pretty cool. Um, but I often feel like Spider-Man often makes things out of nothing. Like he again, like he doesn't have anything crazy to really help him. Like he has to be clever. Um, he's often not given much, so like he's doing things that like his like mental capabilities allowing him to do. So I feel like I'm more of like a Spider-Man, less like a Hulk or like a Batman, where like their powers are very obvious.
Right.
Unlike Spider-Man, it's like he looks like a normal kid, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I would probably say Spider-Man if I had to pick one.
Nice. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording about the drawing you've been doing. So I guess the question is like how did you get into art? And is that something that like crosses over to your teaching, like your love for art? Because I've been watching you on Instagram doing the art thing, and I'm always just like super impressed with how good it is. It's crazy awesome.
Thank you. It's I played basketball in university for 4 years. Coming out of high school, it was either basketball or art. So I had my portfolio done for art school. I had done all all these like random drawings they had asked me to do. I think one was like a potato in a certain kind of like position. It was really odd. I had done all this work, and then I ended up getting um, a scholarship to play basketball. So I ended up choosing basketball instead. And then I just put it away, and I would draw, and then I put it away, and then I draw. And it is definitely something that I now, as a teacher, use as much as possible. I use it as like a classroom management tool. Um, I use it as like a creative environment with the kids. Like my anchor charts, I normally have art on them. My whiteboards have art on them. I do feel like art. I do feel like everyone can be an artist. And I do preach that a lot in the classroom. I think it's really important that kids know that they can be creative. And the main thing with that is knowing that the way they're creative, the way that they're doing their art is important. It doesn't have to be exactly like everyone else is doing it. So that's one of the reasons why I like art, because like no one can really tell you that you're wrong, right? Like as an artist, you are the person who's in control. So I think once students understand that, it's very very helpful for them to kind of break through that like creative process as well. So
Yeah, and I had a chance earlier this spring. A friend of mine lives in Chicago, and we went to like the famous I forget the name of it, but the downtown Chicago Art Museum. That's one of the most famous in the world. And there's some pieces in there that I'm just like, I don't get how this is art, and it's so crazy. But like you said,
it's great, right?
it's it's to each his own. Like I mean, it's the same thing with music. Like just because you like certain music doesn't mean everybody's got to like it, or with
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And I think that's like, yeah, if you can get kids to get to know that, like your art doesn't have to look like everybody else's. Like that's like one huge step, like in like life, knowing that things don't have to be the same way, right?
And do you feel like that then kind of lends it into that conversation about, people of, like,
Yeah, I think so. I do. Like I think personal identity, being yourself, I think all those things are like extremely important. And if you figure out a way to be happy with who you are, and you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, and it's hard. Like I'm teaching third graders, so like these are like pretty tough concepts. But if they have an idea of what these things are, they are well on their way leading into fifth grade, middle school, high school, etc. So
nice, nice. So, do you have a particular, like, educational philosophy or some kind of vision for what you do and who you are as a teacher?
philosophy, I would. It's a tough question. Like I do like the idea of empathy. I think empathy is really really important. I think respect and connections are really really important. Um, and I think within that like combination of all of those, um, they're going to help students grow, like in general. And then I just talked about like personal identity. I think all of those things kind of put together are going to help kids have a love for learning. Um, but at the same time, I think like the empathy part is going to help them understand pain, like sorrow and hardships, which is like it's not a good feeling, but it's something that kids especially need to have to kind of go through or understand because it's going to happen as they get older. Um,
Yeah.
so I think again it goes back to empathy, respect, and kind of connections. I think, and then obviously like within all of that, you want it to be fun, you want it to be engaging, and high energy. Like you have to have some energy when you're in the classroom. It
Right.
is just
Right.
is not going to work out very well if you have no energy, especially elementary. That's for sure.
Right on. So, from your school experience to teaching in Kuwait to teaching in Singapore, could you kind of compare, what those experiences been like? And I know it's different when you're a teacher to compare it to your academic experience, but could you just kind of compare, for the listeners as to what the system was like that you went to and how it compares to those two places you've been since?
Kuwait was definitely it was, for one, it was eye opening. This is my first time outside North America. Going into a country that was Muslim, people that looked very different. Like for me, going into Kuwait was different. I was always a minority, like even in Canada, but it was different in the sense that like they were the people there were extremely nice. My parents were extremely nice. The kids were extremely nice. Um, the school was a good starting point. To be honest, they didn't have a ton of resources. Um, there were 7 classes of second graders at the time. School was fairly big. I think there was, I can't, don't quote me on it, I think there was at least like 2,000 kids, maybe a little less than 2,000 kids. Um, and I learned a ton. Like going in as a new teacher, I learned a ton. Like I had great teachers and mentors there. And then I ended up leaving my third year to come to Singapore, which was like another, not shock, but learning experience. The school that I'm currently in has like 4,000 kids, so it's like a small university almost. Um, I had, I'm teaching third grade here, and instead of 7 third grade classes, I have 14 third grade classes. So it's like, yeah, you put it in context. So you try and look at how does that even work. Like we have 3 huge sections. We have a huge elementary, huge middle school, and then a huge high school. And the campus is literally, it's like a university campus. I have lots of resources, maybe more than what I need. Um, One-to-one iPads, so it's definitely different. But Kuwait was definitely an amazing like stepping stool for me to get to the school that I am right now, for sure.
So are you teaching in Kuwait and in Singapore the native kids? Are you teaching kids from other countries, or what kind of school are you in?
So both schools are American schools. So the one in Kuwait was ASK, which was American School in Kuwait. The school that I'm in now is Singapore American School, and both schools you need to have American passport to go to the school. So I believe it kind of works like a lot of the kids. They're local in a sense that they're from Kuwait or from Singapore, but they were born in America. So that's how they have the American passport. A lot right now. I have a lot of kids from like they're from everywhere you can possibly think of. So I have kids from Canada, kids from the U.S., I have kids from Europe, Chinese, Korea, like everything you can possibly think of. And then in Kuwait, it was more Middle Eastern, so I had like kids from Kuwait. I did have kids that were born in like they were Turkish. I had kids from Russia. Like it was very similar in a sense, like the demographics, but the kids basically came from everywhere, but they had passports from America. And we did not, Kuwait, they did not take local kids. In Singapore, they don't take local kids either. Not at the 2 schools that we have anyway.
So you're teaching only in English. You're not teaching in any other languages.
No other languages, thank God.
Yeah, that's just always what I wonder if if you're going to a place like that, you have to teach. Um,
But
so
they do go to language classes, though.
oh, so they're learning. Are they learning just the native language, or are they learning all kinds of
Yes,
them?
they're doing Mandarin. Here they're doing Mandarin, Spanish, Chinese. Like Kuwait, they were doing Arabic and Spanish. Um, I think it depends on what your parents want you to kind of learn. But they do go out every day for a language class.
Okay, so thinking about your experience so far, like what are the benefits of teaching abroad, and what are some of the drawbacks?
I'll start with the drawbacks. Like I would say, the only drawback for me is being away from family. Like I'm a mama's boy. Like I love being around family. It's hard to miss things. Like I've missed weddings. I've missed parties. I've missed friends having kids, and like all like there's a lot of stuff that you miss because you are just so far away. Like you can't just get on a plane and go home because the distance just doesn't work out for you. Um, I think sometimes it's hard to build friendships because coming into a new school, like especially if you're new, you're starting over. Like you have to build friendships over again, and that has to go whether that is through people that you meet at dinners or outings, whether it's through school events. It's a little bit like university. Like, you know what? Like, you have to put yourself out there a little bit. So if you're uncomfortable in a sense where you don't want to put yourself out there and find new friends, like it can be very difficult um, building relationships as well. Um, I think the benefits of it are, I think there's way more benefits than like downfalls of being international. The benefits are obviously like if you go to a school that has lots of resources, um, they definitely you can get. I don't know. I'm going to speak for myself here because the school that I'm at, you can get any resource you need at any time. There's lots of books in the library. They have iPads, and they treat their teachers really well. So most international schools they pay for like your housing, so like you don't have to worry about paying for your housing. Like they basically just pay for it for you. They put you on like a health plan, so your health plan is pretty good, and you get benefits through health plans. They pay for your 2 flights home, so like you can fly home many 2 times a year, and they give you money for that. Um, and the classroom sizes stay between 21 and 22 kids. That's always helpful when you know how many kids you're going to get. And then I think the biggest one, which I hear from a lot of friends that I have in the States, that have a lot of support in a lot of these schools, international schools. And again, I'm speaking for myself here that there's support for those kids that are struggling. So they're going out and they're getting RTI work done. They're getting whether it's math or writing or reading or whatever it is. There's people there specifically to help them. So they're going out of the classroom, coming in, they're getting help. They're not just sitting in the classroom struggling. So there is a lot of benefits, I would say. I would love to convince anyone to come teach international. But again, the family thing is hard sometimes. Definitely.
How much personal traveling have you done since you've been in those places? Because it seems like everybody I know that goes international, every time I see them, they're like in all these different places and doing all these cool things.
Yeah, I'm again very lucky for not traveling until I moved to Kuwait, and then saying that I've been to I don't know I've been to a lot of, like I've been to like Greece, I've been to Abu Dhabi and like Dubai, I've been to Bali, I've been to like Germany, I've been to a lot of different places, and I think again I didn't mention that before, but like that is like a huge benefit of being an international teacher. Like I've been lucky to be in two great hubs, like Kuwait and Singapore, where like there's places around you, like you can travel, like, and go to Bali on a weekend and come back on Monday and go to school. Like it's crazy. Like I could never do anything like that in North America, right?
No,
So
no.
it has definitely opened up my eyes in a sense where like I feel like I'm a traveler now, and it's fun like to see different places. So um, I can't even remember how many places I've been, to be honest.
So do you and your wife think you'll be international forever, or is there a time where you're gonna try to kind of move back towards family, or what's the plan?
Um, she's already told me like she's pretty happy, and like international teaching is something that she definitely wants to do for a while. But I'm kind of with her on that. Like I'm comfortable. Um, Again, I don't know what's going to happen. Um, I don't know. Maybe knock on wood, someone may get sick, or they may need one of us home for whatever reason. Then I think family and all those things kind of come first. But at the same time, right now we're pretty happy being international teachers. So
Is her family close to your family in Canada, or are you pretty far apart?
pretty far. Like she's from Toronto, so the they don't really see each other because that's quite the commute, right? Um, but yeah, they when we got married last summer, it was great. Like it was one of the first times a lot of them got to meet each other. So now they're on just like we're talking, like they're on WhatsApp and like they're on Facebook and like but yeah, not close. Definitely not close.
Nice, nice. All right, so we talked a little bit prior to coming on here, and that about the importance of males in the profession, and that, and you also talked about the importance of you as a black man being in the profession. So can you kind of open up a little bit more about the importance of male teachers and specifically black male teachers?
Yeah, I think you know what. It's hard because well, not hard. I know. I just remember when I was in school and I went elementary. I had two teachers that looked similar to myself. None of them were male. Then I got to middle school and I think I had one that looked similar to myself. And I didn't know, but there was such a huge difference in um, the way I looked at him, the way that I carried myself when I was around him, just like my philosophy of like being in the class and being there and like listening and trying to take everything I could from him, knowing that wow, like this guy kind of looks like me, and I've never really seen that before. And why is that important? And I don't think I really knew that until now, and seeing other people kind of go through it, um, because we have some black kids that in Singapore. There was a few in Kuwait, and for them to see me, it's like it's crazy. Like they almost see like a ghost because it's like you don't see very many, for one, males in elementary, and then you don't see very many black males in elementary, especially in international setting. So the importance goes a long way, I think, um, in a sense where it's like a sense of pride. Um, there's also like sort of like a sense of like ownership, and they respect you. I think a little bit more because like you're kind of familiar to them, and they're not used to seeing someone who looks like you. So again, I think one of the things international schools could do a little bit better of is hiring as many, not just male teachers, but also like African American or Canadian or whatever the case may be teachers, over a scale, but definitely male. There's very few of us here, that's for sure. Very, very few of us.
Yeah.
Just very, very few.
Yeah, and I mean, but you said the area, and I don't know if maybe we were talking about it, but the area you grew up in Nova Scotia was a primarily black neighborhood, right?
It was, yeah, it was. And there were mentors there. There were lots of people that were, not a lot that were in education, but people that wanted to put you on like the right track, so to speak, but they weren't in the classroom with you. So then that's different. Like you can go out of the classroom into the community and hear things, but then once you get to school, like you have so many distractions around you. If you don't have that person, or those people or that like community, it can be hard. It can be really, really difficult for you to kind of to get through. So
Yeah.
um, I think it's important. Yeah, very, very, very important.
Yeah, and I just, for me, I grew up in teeny tiny town Wisconsin, like completely. I mean, like there was maybe one black student in my high school the whole time. And this is a high school of like 400 people total. But you know what, my mentality really changed when I moved to Houston, which is a primarily Hispanic, and a large African American population in these schools, but the majority of the teachers are white, and
Yeah.
the majority of the teachers are female, and I had a really hard time understanding and learning that cultural piece as to why the Hispanic kids and the African Americans kids didn't necessarily vibe with me because of that gap. Not that they were like discriminating against me because of my race, but there was just not that under, like you said, that understanding of the culture and what it meant, and not just that, but to go to a what we call Title I school district where the majority of the kids are low socioeconomic. There was just such a gap between me and the students for a long time before, until I started to really try to understand what that life was like.
And I think that it goes. And I finishing up my master's now. I think one thing that has kind of really hit me is that I think, and I can again So we talk about diversity in culture in a sense where it's like, ooh, we're doing diversity, we're doing culture, but it's not done properly. I think we have like events or like we were having one, it's like one-offs. So it's like one day we're gonna have an event on culture, and everyone's gonna dress up in their culture costumes, and they're gonna bring food, and then it's like that's the end. And it should be way deeper than like that surface level kind of like this is what we're gonna do, and culture is fun and it's beautiful, but we're not really talking about the individuals that are in the classroom and representing them at all, just through like parties, so to speak. I think that's a lack of. I think a lot of schools, and I'm just this is just from like research that I've done in international experiences. I think a lot of schools are missing that piece within education.
And I don't know a lot about Singapore or Kuwait, beyond kind of where I could find them on the map. But I mean, America has always been a very racially divided country, but now it's really come to the forefront and it's really out there. So I mean, is Singapore that way to where there is, very distinct racial divides?
No, I think the school. No, I would no, definitely not. I think Singapore is like how can I describe it? It's definitely there's lots of it is a little bit of a melting pot. Like there are people from all over the world here. Um, I do feel like personally myself, I go out and I don't feel no one really looks at me in a sense where like, oh, he's really different. I've gone to other countries where like I felt uncomfortable to the point where people are trying to touch my hair or trying to take pictures with me. Like it's not, and I, you know what, and it's not in a sense where they are being ignorant. I think a lot of it is curiosity for the most part, but curiosity at times can be hard on someone. Like if you go out and someone is always curious of you, and it's like person after person after person, you're gonna start to feel something. So over time, it can be very taxing on somebody, right? But Singapore is definitely not like that at all. I think there's lots of different people. Um, I feel like it's honestly one of the easiest places that I've lived, um, and the people are super kind. There's not really much of a divide, um, but there are definitely different pockets of people for sure.
So in so when you're talking about you don't talk about diversity a lot, so it's maybe not as much I mean, because it seems like in America it's a cultural thing. Like we don't wanna, as a culture, have that hard conversation about it. So is that more from your end? Is it more just the schools and that school community doesn't prioritize it rather than not wanting to go down that road?
I wouldn't say we don't prioritize it. I would say it's more. I think it just needs to be revisited. Like I think we just need to look back at what we are doing. Is it helpful? What is the reason behind it? Like, if it is for us to just celebrate one day of something, then sure, that's fine. Um, if we are trying to help students understand who they are as people, as a culture, um, individually, community based, like all that stuff, then we have to go beyond the one offs, or beyond the read aloud or the movie or whatever the case may be. Um, it definitely has to go a lot deeper than what it is. And again, that's not just looking at my school right now. Yeah, I think it's a lot of international schools, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just it's such a strange I don't want strange is not the right word, but it's just a different time than I can ever remember, being, I'm 33, like I didn't grow up with the internet. Like we had the internet when I was in school, but it wasn't what the internet is today. And, with social media, it's just everything's coming out to the forefront and I just don't think we can avoid those hard conversations anymore.
No, you can't. And I think you have to teach kids to be able to talk about them, like, because it's gonna happen. Like majority of our kids, and again speaking for myself, they're gonna we grew up in this kind of like a bubble in Singapore where everything's like so safe. Like you don't have a lot of racial backlash. People are really looking at you differently because things are normal. Like then you go to the States and it's like people are gonna have questions. People may make comments. Like if you're not ready for that, if you don't know what to say, if you're not proud of who you are, you don't know who you are, you're gonna have a really hard time kind of like articulating yourself. So it is a tricky concept. I think it's definitely something we need to address. How do we do it? I don't know.
I don't know either, but and I think that's one of the things we really like about the podcast with teachers is it's just a great platform for us to just have conversation and just do our little part to keep the conversation going. The gun violence thing right now in America is crazy, and yeah, it's dangerous and it's scary, but like the conversations and how polarized it is on both sides is what scares me way more, because it's just you can't you can't have it doesn't seem like we can have just a civil conversation and just find some middle ground. I feel like our country more than anything is just unwilling to try to find middle ground.
I think that it's sad because there's people that are so angry, and I don't know why. Like I guess I know why, but they're angry to the point that they're not listening anymore. It's like my idea. This is what I want. If I don't get it, I'm going to be angry, and that's it. That's kind of where it stops right there.
Right.
It's really sad.
Yeah, but I mean, and the other good thing about the podcast is every teacher I've talked to though is like, but there's so many great teachers out there. If we're just in the education space, like, and I think that's what I love about the Instagram teacher community is there's just so much positivity floating around, and not just that there's like, and it's not like just false positivity. It's like really genuinely upbeat, happy, positive people like putting good stuff out, and I think that's what I like about it the most.
Yeah, no, it's when I first started the Instagram. I've been on Instagram for a while, but I never really did like the teacher. Never really promoted teaching like what I was doing in the classroom. I didn't really follow any teachers. Once I started finding people and looking at their pages, I was like, same, just like you. I was like, holy cow! Like there are so many amazing teachers out there doing amazing things, and a lot of people are figuring out ways to come together to do it more, do it bigger, and do it better. Um, we just need more of that.
Yeah,
People just need to feel connected, like,
yeah,
and I think when it's for the kids, um, that's what matters most. I think people forget like they're kind of so self. I don't know what the word is. Like they're so about themselves, and they forget like why are we really doing this? And it's about the kids. And if you look on Instagram, often on Twitter, like people are doing a lot of these things for the kids, and that's what really really matters.
yeah. That's awesome, and that's a good way to kind of round this out. So I just want to ask you a couple random questions because I'm interested. So
Sure.
like, what has been the most memorable or coolest experience you've had in your travels, abroad? And it doesn't have to be like teaching experience, but just like the coolest place or the coolest thing you've gotten to do.
Coolest place, man, it's so hard. Um, I really loved Jordan. Jordan was like one of my favorite places. The Taj Mahal was like this surreal moment. Like you couldn't believe you're looking at like the Taj Mahal, this like beautiful building. Um, I really really liked Barcelona and Berlin. Something about Europe, like people are just so chill in Europe. Like
Yeah, they are.
they they go out, they eat, they hang out with friends. Like everyone seems like they're so zen there. So I love traveling to Europe. I think the most my favorite would be Jordan. I think um, because like we did some like it was kind of like rafting, but you didn't have like the raft. So you went down in this kind of like waterfall. You put this like life jacket on. And you're like you basically have to truck through like water and rocks to get to this like water fountain at the end. And it was like one of the craziest experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. there's water splashing everywhere. There's like people going both ways. Like you have to hang on ropes. Like I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was like one of those experiences that like I'm scared to death, like so scared. And then you finish it, and you're like so happy, you're so excited. Um, and there's the moments where you're like, wow, like scary moments are the ones like you learn from and you cherish the most because like you didn't think you could do it, so to speak. But yeah, Jordan was like just amazing. If you don't have Jordan on your list, put Jordan on your list.
All right, got it. So what's there's a lot out there that it always seems like when you go to those exotic places that there's all this strange food. So what's the strangest food you've eaten?
I tried when I went to Thailand, and it didn't last very long. I tried like you can try like scorpions or like yeah, it didn't last very long. It was one of those things where like okay, I'll try it and see what happens, but I think I like barely took a bite of it, and I was like, no, this is not for me. So scorpions, I'm pretty adventurous, but like scorpions was like way outside of the box, and I did not go back to anything else like that after that experience. So
Nice.
scorpions, you should try
Nice.
those too.
Yeah. All right. If when I go to Thailand, I'll try them for sure. So, all right. So to kind of wrap it up, because I want to be respectful of your time, because I'm sure you got a nice. I mean, it's Saturday. It's Friday night where I am, and it's Saturday morning where you are. So I want to make sure you got your day going. So what's the best advice you've ever been given, and who was that person that gave it to you?
Best advice. That's a hard question. Like I feel like I have a handful of mentors in my life, but I think my biggest mentors have always been like my parents. Um, I think my mom and my dad have always told me like kill them with kindness. So if you are in some sort of issue or problem with someone like and you feel a certain way towards someone like just be kind, just be kind, just be kind. Mom and dad would always talk about learning from your mistakes and how mistakes are kind of what make you grow as a person. And my dad would always say, if you don't ask, you never know. And I think that's something that is kind of I've used throughout my life. Like I was never a person to ask a lot of questions. Um, and the times that I didn't ask questions, that's when I got in trouble the most. Um, but when I did ask questions, it made ideas more simple. Um, and it kind of helped me kind of along this like teaching journey as much as possible, like asking questions, learning from mistakes, and just being kind. I think kindness is something that is also not talked about enough, but something we need to be talking about more in education, preaching to our children, and just being a little bit more aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. So, I know it's a broad question I'm going to ask you, but what would be,
Okay.
what's maybe the best tip of advice or best tip you've gotten or best advice you've gotten, as a struggling teacher that you would pass on to another struggling teacher?
Um, I think honestly, I think the first thing is identifying what that struggle is and not being ashamed of it. Like as a teacher, especially as a new teacher, like you are going to make so many mistakes, and you identify what they are, write them down. It can be a list of things, and then I think similar to what my dad has always says, like ask the questions because you don't want to go through you don't want to go weeks or months without asking questions and then being stuck or forgetting. I think asking questions and finding trustworthy mentors is really really important. Finding someone within education, within your building or your team that you like truly believe in, and like talk to them. Say like, can you be my mentor? Like, can I ask you questions? Can I WhatsApp you? Whatever it is, because if you don't have people like that, it's gonna be really really hard for you, especially as a new teacher.
Oh, that's awesome. That's perfect. So, what's your proudest accomplishment to date?
You know what? I'm almost done my master's, so I'm gonna that I am extremely happy that I'm almost done. It's been very, very hard in a sense where masters abroad online has been very, very difficult. So I think that has probably been I'm most proud of myself for that now, just being able to juggle so much and being basically done. I'll be done this summer. I have one more course left and a little bit of a project, and I'll be done. No more school for a while after this.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, all right, before we ask you the final question, let you go. People that want to follow you or want to connect with you, what's the best place? What's the best way for them to do that?
Um, I am, as you know, I'm an Instagram person, so I love Instagram as much as possible. So Gary R. Gray Jr. on Instagram, Gary R. Gray Jr. on Twitter. Um, I want to do YouTube really badly, but I'm struggling so bad to make videos right now.
So we're in the same spot. We're in the same spot.
Eventually, I will have a YouTube channel eventually. So maybe like I'll set the bar very low, and it'll be one video a week probably. But those are the main things for me right now. Instagram and Twitter. Send me a message. I love talking about teaching,
Hmm.
especially if you want to teach international. Honestly, like send me a message. I can send you loads of information. I love
Nice,
convincing people to travel.
nice, awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking this time out of your morning, and I really enjoyed the conversation. It was fun to connect, even though I do feel bad that I made the assumption that you were American and you're Canadian. I will apologize for making that assumption.
No, not a problem. Not a problem.
So, all right,
Thank you. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome.
thank you, appreciate it. So, all right, last question before we let you go here. What do you want your legacy to be?
Legacy. Wow. That's a hard question. I think I would like my legacy to be something obviously leaving something within education um, that can be used over and over again. So whether that is some sort of idea or concept that is important to the world or society that can help them kind of grow in a sense. So that I don't know what that could be. Maybe that is a book or a novel or curriculum, or maybe it's just myself and me doing this more as much as possible, me
Right,
doing videos or public speaking or something like that. I want people to look back and know that, or I want people to look back and say, like, teaching is about kindness, it's about making connections, it's about finding out who you are and making mistakes, and that's all what Gary was kind of about. So um, I think if I can leave some sort of legacy where people are thinking about those things, I will be very, very happy.
nice, man. That's awesome. Well, once again, man, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us.
Not a problem. Thank you. Thank you. I have a question for you before you go. Actually,
Oh yeah,
who's your basketball team?
my favorite basketball team. I I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm more of a college basketball guy,
Sure.
but so I'm a Wisconsin Badgers all the way. But I gotta say, like, I do like the Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks are starting to come around and they're finally getting good. So I gotta say that I'm a Bucks fan.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I can't argue with that. The Bucks they got a game seven coming up.
I know. Are you a Raptors fan?
I do like the Raptors because I am Canadian, but I'm also a Chris Paul fan. So
Oh.
I paid my dues being a Clippers fan for a long time, and I'm very, very happy that I'm a Rockets fan.
Oh yeah, that's good. And when I was living in Houston, I got to go to a couple Rockets games. They were fun. So I'm kind of hoping they can do it. The Houston Astros just won the World Series in baseball, so it'd be something if the Rockets could do the same.